So, to start out today, I'm going to read something that I posted in the newsletter from the Gospel of Thomas, which is the Gnostic wisdom of Jesus. So, this is Christ speaking, and he said, "If they ask you from where you come, say, 'We were born of the light.' There where light is born of light. It always holds true and is revealed within the image of you. If they ask you who you are, say, 'We are its children, the beloved of the living one, male and female.' If they ask you what the sign is of this unity in you, it is movement and it is repose." And that can also be found in many other Gospels in different words. But this is how the Gospel of Thomas expresses it. So I often speak with people, and this comes up for myself as well, that you can have a wonderful experience in meditation where you feel peace and light and everything is settling nicely. And then life happens. You need to go to work. You're busy with children, family, relationships, whatever else might be happening. And how to be able to allow that peace, that lightness, that inner stillness, for that to be integrated and carried forward into all the different parts of your life. So the meditation and the way that I'm going to guide it today is an opportunity to be able to listen very finely, very deeply. In a sense, what true meditation is about is being able to soften into those quiet spaces that are not only within, but once you recognize these within, and it's very intuitive, then you're able to notice the quietness that is also happening on the outside. Paki, I'm going to ask if you can close those two curtains. The light is starting, the sun is coming out, it's starting to come in really strong now. Thank you. So you could say that when we're functioning in our outer world, that in some ways it feels very masculine when there's a lot to do. I have to take care of this and that, attend to this and that on the outside. And that is essential. It's important. That's the movement. But if we're only moving and if we're only attending and if we're only paying attention to our to-do list and we're not taking the time to repose, we're not taking the time to listen to those quiet spaces within, then we're really missing that part of who we are that fuels our movement, that is able to bring the quietness inside to the outside. And you could say that this is more of a feminine approach, because when we sit to meditate, we're not meditating with our minds. The minds aren't doing anything. You know, perhaps when you're working in your external world, there are aspects of the mind that are required in order for there to be functioning. But when it comes to meditation, the mind isn't needed at all. So it's a very intuitive, soft letting go where meditation is happening with the whole body. It's if the body becomes a listening vessel, you know, to be able to be so quiet, to be able to soften. So we're going to go ahead and experience that directly. You know, a way of meditating, a way of listening to the quietness inside, a way of softening. You could say to surrender. But without this, we'll never learn to trust what we know on the inside. And it's that capacity to trust what we already are, the light that is already here, the light that we are born of, the source that we are. If we don't access that and come into full contact with that, our movement on the outside will still be perhaps stressful or confused or disorganized, and it won't feel quiet. So we'll miss the quietness that is also happening at all times. So that may not make sense to the mind, but let's go ahead and have an experience. So one part of meditating is breathing out. You could say that when we're working or attending to family, that there's a lot of perhaps breathing in, and maybe we even get into holding patterns in relationships, with ideas in our mind, with beliefs. So let's take this opportunity to breathe out, to breathe out, just to let the body breathe. So go ahead and close your eyes if you haven't done so already. Make contact with your body. Now feel into the muscles, the joints, the bones, the ligaments, and especially the bottoms of your feet. It's always good to have a base where you can feel anchored and grounded through your feet or through the base of your body. Now the breath is going to naturally flow in. Let that happen. And let there just be an exhalation that carries the energy of letting go, of nothing to hold right now, nothing to do, nowhere to go. You're just settling here in the fullness of your body. Remembering that the mind is not necessary for meditation. That if you notice that there may be activity happening in your mind, in the same way, just breathe out the spaciousness around those thoughts. Notice that thought is moving in the spaciousness of your mind, that the mind is not a closed system. When we just let it be as it is, without any need to attend to whatever thoughts may be occurring, thought can just move freely in the spaciousness of the mind. Let there be space. When there's space, there's a natural listening, a listening that can feel and sense quiet. Those quiet spaces behind thought, before thought, between thought. Listen into the quiet. Excuse me. A very gentle listening. There may be movement. There may be areas that feel tight or congested. But notice that wherever there is movement, there's also quiet. Listen to those quiet spaces all throughout your body. In our natural conditioning, we're accustomed to paying attention to noise, to who or whatever might be the loudest. There's a real art to letting there be noise and not trying to change it, but softening around it, letting it be there, and at the same time giving attention to the quiet that's all around it, that's before it, it's beneath it, it's after it, it's happening right now. Quiet is everywhere. Let yourself melt into the quiet spaces within you and all around you. So we're exploring together the inner dimension of you, this vast inner dimension that can't be known through thought, through mind, but it can be felt, can be sensed, can be intuited. It's very intuitive. Not only is it quiet, but there's a delightful peacefulness, a quality of stillness. This is the inner dimension of you that is essential to rest in. Until you know it to be yourself beyond a doubt. Rest here in this lightness. Rest here in this very soft, soft blanket of stillness. Feel its comfort. Feel its nourishment. Feel its deep, deep care. Feel it as the one that gave birth to you, to your light, to your wholeness. Feel it like a father or like a mother that perhaps you or the image of you as a small child may have looked for and couldn't find it on the outside. So let that looking for something on the outside to turn itself around completely. So there's a full stop in looking for anything outside of yourself. Turn here, come back here, all the way here. to the source of you that is both mother and father, feminine, masculine, here, in you, before you, always you, the light of you, the light that you are born from. Now this can be trusted. Rest here. Repose here. Be here. Quiet and alive. Still and vibrant. Soft and strong. And in this quiet listening, allowing whatever may be moving through you to happen. So once again, if there's noise or movement happening in your mind or your body somewhere, know that it's born out of you, out of the quietness of you. Listen for the quiet. Settle, feel, sense into the quiet before, between, after, and all around you. There's nothing wrong with noise or movement, but we always want to give space to listen to the quiet, the spaces in you that are quiet, no matter how big or small. Listen. You can continue to listen along with eyes opened or eyes closed. How doesn't that feel nice? When you take a pause, when you stop and listen to all that is quiet within you and around you, you are tapping into your life force, the source of you, which fortifies all movement, all activity. So when you can move from a space of quiet, as you practice this, you carry it with you, and it will penetrate, you could say, or it will overflow into all of your activities. And there's an important piece in that we talked about, and I'm reminded of it from something that I heard yesterday in a yoga class. I really love this yoga class and this particular yoga teacher. And she gives little snippets of information throughout the class. So she was speaking about a tantra yoga training that she was doing, and she was new to tantra, and she was surprised to find out that tantra includes everything. That it's not necessarily about a practice of sex or some union between a man and a woman or something like that, which is what she had thought. And then she went to go on about how um, in the particular training, they were talking about creating a list of all the things that are important to you. And this list was to come out of after sitting in quiet. So they sat for a little while in quiet, like we just did. And what happened is people raised their hand and they were to talk about what feelings they found. And almost everybody found difficult or challenging or dark feelings, negative emotions. And so the instructions were to kind of ignore that and write down the positive things that you want to bring forward. And so me, my non-dual Prajna is sitting there and going, well, a little bit ago you said Tantra includes everything. And this is the point that I'm getting at. What's so beautiful about sitting in the quiet is that if there is something lingering that is negative or dark or difficult, that it will present itself in the quiet. And the way that we're doing this meditation is kind of to symbolically let there be a representation of mother and father in you, masculine and female. And that's the unity of the oneness. But when we can kind of give space for there to be both inside of us, it's almost as if we're giving ourselves an opportunity to reparent ourselves. Because many of these conflicting emotions, negative emotions, or conditioning happens in early childhood. So if there's something there that hasn't had an opportunity to be parented properly or to be resolved properly, then of course it will present itself. And that's a very beautiful thing if it does. And all we need to do is give space for it, allow it to happen. And it's that mother-father principle inside of us, the unity that we are, that is born out of oneness, out of wholeness, isn't missing or lacking anything. Then it engages the energy of that, whatever old hurt or old sorrow or grief, whatever it might be, it can be healed in the light of you. Sometimes additional outside resources are needed, but if you have a really strong, dedicated practice and quiet, and if these things are opening up inside of you to be seen and felt and met, if we can give space to it, then we'll also be informed On the internally, what other resource might we need to engage to assist in the process of healing these spaces that may not have been parented properly, and that perhaps a little more support is needed than the light and quiet that we're able to find inside. So when I was listening to this information given by this teacher, I thought, well, that's great. That's half of it. Yes, it's always good to, make a list of those positive things that you want to go after in your life or you want to confirm within yourself. But again, if we're putting a blanket or a band-aid or suppression over other aspects of who we are emotionally that are rising to the surface, they're rising because they want to be healed, they want to be met, they want to come into the unity of you. So I think it's really important to say that, because this is where, if there's still something that's conflicted on the inside, this is how it will also show up in the movement, in the functioning in our external world, whether it be in work or relationships, family life, whatever it is. So if there's still something within us that's conflicted, unresolved, or hasn't had an opportunity to heal, then it will present itself somewhere on the outside. So again, it's like being able to let yourself surrender so much into the quiet of you to be able to listen not only to the quiet, but what presents itself in the quiet. And not to make that a problem, because none of it is a problem. Now, and you wouldn't make it a problem, like you, the light that you are, would never make anything a problem. It would be the mind coming in and making an interpretation about it, that somehow it's a problem. Only the mind can do that. And the mind is just a conditioned tool. It's a program. It's a way in which all culture, all environments, all of our history kind of condition the mind to interpret and make conclusions and, put on a almost a holding pattern of, so it's not coming, a holding pattern of a conclusion about yourself that then can feel like an identity. So repose is what the answer was from Christ. It is the signs of those that are living awake, those that are living from unity, those that are living from oneness. It is movement and it is repose. And what often gets missed in this expression is, I'm just going to say it again, but the repose is the meditation practice. It's the settling into yourself as spaciousness, as openness, listening. It's a very feminine principle, and listening and breathing out. It's very intuitive. But in that listening, there might be movement. There is movement. Now, that movement may come as something to resolve, something to attend to. That movement may come as inspiration, as information, as the energy that fuels us. And it may be a combination of many of those things. So, like what source wants from us. I mean, the trajectory of all of us is light, is unity, is harmony, is the capacity to live from wholeness, to live from oneness. But the only way that we're going to trust that that's true, is by learning and listening about the inner dimension of who we are. So we have to give time. We have to give space to the inner dimension of our being. And sometimes what's happening on the outside can be so loud because there's a multiplicity of influences coming in to us. But when you listen to those influences through the mind, And if the mind is heavily conditioned to an identity that needs to be fixed or repaired or somehow not good enough, or is continuing to seek for mother and father outside to give them something, then all the attention on the outside is going to gravitate toward programs and information that is going to fix me. It's going to seek for the solution on the outside. And that's where we can spin and loop forever and ever and ever and ever, and we'll never quite land on the right thing. We will maybe for a little while, like that happens with relationships often for people, because the inner dimension isn't being attended to. So it's, well, how can I complete myself on the outside? Or how can somebody give me something from the outside so that I can feel okay? And then that might be satisfying for a little while, and that's wonderful, and we all do it. But still, like, if there's going to be a continuation, if there's going to be harmony, if there's going to be satisfaction, if there's going to be fruit blossoming from the engagements in which we participate in so many aspects of life, if we haven't listened, if we haven't come to know ourselves from the inside, we'll end up joining something for a little bit, get bored with it, or decide, oh, this isn't working, I'll go to the next one or to the next one. It's a loop. And it will never satisfy until we collapse fully into this inner dimension here and listen to the mother and the father that is already here, to the light, to the wholeness that is already here, to the amazing capacity that is already here, to this deep, deep quiet. And as we repose more and more in this quiet, which doesn't mean a lack of noise, which doesn't mean a lack of movement, which doesn't mean that there won't be energy, sensations, because this is your aliveness, of course. But all of it's happening in the quietness of you. And then we come to trust something that is essential for our well-being, essential for our sanity, essential for our capacity to stand on our feet and be who we are, and be our becoming, and be that which the maker of light, the source that we are, has intended for us to be. So if you are making a list as the new year has begun about all of the things that you want, my encouragement is, focus on those things that are positive, of course, but don't put a Band-Aid. Don't jump over anything that is lingering inside that might still feel conflicted or negative, or emotionally, described as negative, but there is no negative emotion. Emotion is emotion, and that's it. But let that be felt. Let it empty itself out, whether it be a grief, a hurt, a sorrow. Give it space. And you'll find that then the list that you're creating for yourself will also transform. So you transform on the inside, and then the movement of you transforms on the outside. It's different. You're moving from an inner dimension. And then eventually, as you trust this more and more, there's no difference between the inner and the outer. That's where we get that wonderful word called flow. We just flow from a space of non-separation, from a space of non-duality, from a space of not being conflicted. This is a never-ending journey. But the answer is always, what are the signs of the living one? What are the signs of those living awake? It is always movement, and it is always repose. So there isn't an opportunity to go sit on a mountaintop and forget about everything, the world, and not participate. And there isn't an opportunity to go sit in a cave and just ignore everything happening in the outer world. No, that's not movement and repose. Movement and repose is to settle deep into the quietness within you and all around you, which allows you to be in the world, but not of the world, to be able to engage in every aspect of life, without conflict, without the sense of separation. Now imagine for you that this is your opportunity, that you have this capacity, that there is no one who was not born of light. No one. So given that you that I'm speaking to right now was born of light, our light, come from light, you have this capacity. And it's your choice to live it, to decide to be the one, to be the living one.